I think, I guess the short answer to that question is being a man at this point is questioning gender and the idea of gender and what are the positives and negatives of how gender has been enforced and interpreted in society. For me, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm curious to hear your answer, actually. Sorry to turn the interview around, but
It's
I'm
fine.
curious
It's
what you would say
fine.
to that question. Yeah.
Um, How do I start? I mean, it's so I have actually done like, and I'm constantly trying to learn just like and understand, you know, because like let's abstract like man and woman, right? Let's just abstract and just look at the energies. I like how you brought out masculine and feminine, right, from the onset, right? And something I'm really get to deeply understand, like from the core, is that like every human being has both masculine and feminine energy in them, right? I actually put out a post about this, and I actually got like a lot of very good feedback. And essentially, my post is just basically saying like we all have both masculine and feminine energy, and like the masculine purpose of the energy is like to work, to strive, to achieve, to lead, etc., right? That's like the masculine energy, right? And like the feminine energy is like to nurture, to love, um to care, those sort of traits, right? And these are things that you can find in both men and women. Like now what changes is that like every individual has like a factory setting. Like you have a core, like something that is unique to you, and that's what you more or less gravitate towards. It's what typically you tend to prioritize in your life. So if you're someone who prioritizes a lot of like your work, things that you're passionate about, always trying to accomplish things, and you find the most fulfillment in that, then you can say you have a more masculine core. But if you're someone who you value more relationships and trying to build love, and you gain a lot of fulfillment from that, then you have more of a feminine core. And that puts aside the gender, right? It doesn't matter if you're a man, woman, or whatever other type of gender you are. Like it's all about just the energy that you have at your core. Um,
Mm.
so that's sort of what I've come to understand. Obviously, because of just the age we are, they sort of abstract and sort of box in, saying that masculine energy means that you're a man, and and they mainly pointed towards being a heterosexual man, and feminine energy is as you're a woman, right? But really, like, no, you have people who have, you could be a man and you have a lot of feminine energy, and you could be a woman, you have a masculine energy.
Yeah.
And the book that I was gonna check is saying you like it talks about it from a very heteronormative perspective, but I still think like the insights are actually quite interesting, which is why I got a lot of the way I think about it. Because
Mm.
when you think about like relationships, for example, right? Um, both masculine, like these are opposites and they tend to attract, right? So to some degree, yeah, yeah, they agree to some degree, right? So
Yeah.
like it's like to give an example, like it's quite rare to see a very masculine individual together with a very masculine individual, if that makes sense. Because like in a intimate setting, right?
Mm.
Yeah, let's not get too much caught in the weeds. But
Yeah.
anyway. So point being, I see it more from a point of like from energies, like about masculinity and femininity. Um, Unfortunately, because of this the society we're in, like I mean, what it means to be a man, most cases we're talking about what it means to be a masculine man in most cases,
Mm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And in that situation, then that's when if I'm looking at it from that lens specifically, then I say, okay, in that lens, you look at things like, okay, responsibility. I think that's like a very key thing, right? For a lot of masculine men, like you take a lot of responsibility and ownership about who you are, your actions, all those sort of things. Your life. I think it's also a thing about leadership. So leadership not only just like it's both leadership vertically and horizontally. So like are you the sort of like masculine man or masculine individual where you're an inspiration to the people who are around you, or like you lead the people around you, as well as below you, and you try to lead people above you. It's like across the board, in all axes, right?
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, then of course then this is where things get a bit blurry, where there's always those like very traditional ideologies of where like, a masculine man is like a provider, a protector,
Right.
those sort of things. But yeah, in a very long-winded
Yeah.
explanation, but like, I mean, for me, I'm still discovering a lot of it. I mean, I think also just how like what I've been exposed to growing up has also had a very, very huge influence. Like I've grown up in a very, I guess, traditional home to some sense. Where like my dad was a very masculine person, my mom was very feminine. And obviously from that perspective, that sort of influenced my view on things, plus also doing my own reading too. So yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense. I think the thing that probably resonated the most from what you said is like everybody has a factory setting, everyone has like a different base level that they come from. And
Yeah.
I think for me I think I'll revise my answer and say that being a man there's as many different ways to be a man as there are men on this earth. You know what I mean? Like there's no one definition of what being a man is. And I think because I think that the danger with saying for me with saying a man is like the ideas of equating manhood with leadership or with responsibility is a kind of, if you're again looking at these things as opposite, it kind of um, creates these neural pathways or these stereotypes that okay, if you think leader, you think man, and what are the consequences of that when you're looking at like implicit bias in like okay hiring
Right.
processes or
Hiring, right.
like politics or just like even interpersonal relationships on a day to day. So I think for me, my answer is that there's as many ways to be a man as there are men,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
there's no one way to
100%.
be a man. I think what you said about like the factory setting, everybody kind of having a different way of interpreting gender and interpreting these things is probably where I land. And vice versa, there's as many ways to be a woman as there are women. So I think that's kind of probably where I would want to land on that subject.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's definitely a very complicated topic to be talking, especially nowadays.
Yeah,
But I think these conversations are important for a lot of people because I think a lot of people are very, they sort of have the inclination that like something doesn't feel right or something like what I mean, like some sort of like
yeah,
almost mind, I cannot really mind it, like some sort of like almost identity crisis, right? Just because of just the climate we're in these days. So having sort of conversations very openly about like, okay, what does it actually mean from a intro perspective and not really like looking at what is out there that's telling me that this is the definition of what it means to be like this and whatnot. So very, very
yeah.
important. Yeah.